Home buying in California? It's more than just a dream. Record prices, confusing rules, limited inventory. But you don't have to go it alone. Our team breaks it all down, step by step.
You can have situations where, let's say you put 10% down, you've got good credit.
20% of agents do about 80% of the business.
Having a high turnover of renters in an area.
You have more freedom to there. You don't have to go through approval with anybody but the city.
Thousands trust us to make their home ownership dreams real. Meet the experts ready to guide you tonight.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the official Bay Area Home Buying Workshop. We're so happy to have everybody aboard here today and joining us today, and excited to share a whole bunch of information with you about the spring market right now and what's happening out there. We've got some great speakers for you today. I'll introduce them in a second to you. But first thing I wanted to say is, whether you're a first-time home buyer or you're looking to expand your real estate portfolio, this workshop that we've put together is very comprehensive, and it's been, it's been designed to equip you with the knowledge and tools that you need to navigate any real estate market confidently, whatever it is. So if you can hear me, okay, give me a thumbs up there in the comments over there, and let us know, and we'll start rolling here for you. So a little background, our team here, we're a team that's based in Silicon Valley, and we've been here for quite some time. I'm second generation realtor myself. We've got numerous years of experience on this team. I've been in it for almost 3 decades now. So the way our team works, it's myself, it's Chris, it's Shannon, Farnaz, Marita, Adam, Justin. It's a true team effort that we put together in the greatest sense. And you'll learn more about that by asking. So sharing with you today, who we're going to have speaking today, the little intro clip said Keith, Shannon, and Chris. It's Keith, Shannon, and Adam today. So we'll have that coming through as you see everybody speak. So here's the topics that we're going to be covering today. I'm going to minimize myself here so you can see those. Those are our topics that we're going to run through today, that we're going to cover. We want to wrap this up as close to an hour as possible with some great tips to you for avoiding crucial home buying mistakes and how to best negotiate your new home at the end. So hang in there. Of course, if you have any questions or comments, drop them in the chat. Be sure to send them on the everyone setting, and we'll get to them as soon as we can. And one small but very important request today: if you find this webinar, seminar, workshop informative, please share it with others. Our future dates will be announced at the end of today. So thank you so much. So with that, I want to get started in the market. This really is the question that we get more than anything in our industry, is understanding the market. What are the conditions? What's ahead? What's happening right now? So I'm going to start by saying, if you've been thinking about buying a home in the past 2 years and didn't pull the trigger, you really missed out. I'm kidding mostly, but we're going to get into that just a little bit. So you've probably heard a few things so far this year if you're paying attention to any media out there. A 2008 housing crash is on the way. Sales are at record lows. Redfin even claimed that this is the strongest buyer's market on record. So let's address all of these with facts and actual data. So the past 2 years have been affected by what's referred to as a lockdown effect. You've heard about really low inventory, really low sales, and so forth. So the lockdown effect is basically homeowners that are looking to buy their next home. And so many homeowners right now have an interest rate of 3% or even less. And so they don't have a desire to move forward to their next home because the rates went up to 8% at one point. So they just kind of settled in, stayed in their home, stayed in there longer than they usually would, unless they had a true reason to sell the home. And did you know that 79% of all those home buyers out there are also homeowners? And so that really limited our inventory significantly. So last 2 years, record low inventory. What does that mean? Record low sales. It's basic economics. You can't buy what's not for sale. However, last year, the rates dropped in July, and pending sales dramatically accelerated at that point. So low sales narrative, that myth is busted. We're done with that one. So inventory right now is increasing. at a very strong rate due to the dramatically low numbers which it was based on. And that's a very, very good and a very healthy thing. However, pending sales are also increasing at a rapid pace and even outpacing inventory growth in our area. To give an example, inventory itself is up 8.5% year over year, from this time last year to that time last year, to this time this year to that time last year. You guys are with me still. All right. Now it is still down 85% from 2008. Put that in perspective. We're going to need a dramatic inventory increase, right? And that's going to have to be coupled with sales going down and also a lot of distressed sales. Here's the problem with the distressed sales. Homeowners right now, especially in the Bay Area, have the highest equity in the entire history of homeownership, right? None of that is going to lead to a housing crash. The numbers they're just not possible given all that. So let's take a look at the actual numbers. I'm going to throw some stuff here, minimize myself. These are the numbers that we're seeing right now through single family homes in Santa Clara County. And you can see these numbers on the left column and on the right column. The left column is the inventory and the increase that's happened there week over week. And the right column is the pending sales and the increase that's happened there. You can also see what's happened over the past 3 years that's going through there. So again, it's increasing, but the pending sales are increasing as well. Condos, the same thing. Now, condos and townhomes are a little bit easier of a market to get into because there's a smaller audience for them, and they took a pretty good hit after the pandemic, and so they've been struggling to regain a little bit more, but they are still also regaining. We see a lot of green that's in there recently. And then the other thing that I would just bring over to you is simply data as far as sales prices go. So this is single family homes, and you can see that they're still going up every year. So we haven't seen that push and that downward pressure price despite anything that you might have seen contrary out there. So let's go back then to the housing crash narrative. That myth is busted as well. So we don't have any data that could pertain to a housing crash whatsoever. So why is all this happening right now? Rates are down. They're down pretty significant. They were over 8% at one point, and now we're hovering right around 6%. Incomes are actually slowly going up. So if you pay attention to that, wages are actually going up. It's slow, but it's happening. And when wages go up, it does take a little bit longer of a time for that to impact, but it is something we're seeing. And then mortgage applications are soaring. And the importance of this data point is a mortgage application is a precursor to people buying homes. And that means like right now, people that are applying to get a mortgage, they're probably going to buy a home in the next 60 to 90 days. And we've seen those applications soaring over the last 6 months, month over month, year over year, so on and so on. So, really we're looking at flat housing, right? Because our inventory is staying pretty stable. It's going up, which we need, but pending sales are going up. So it's a good balance. We're looking at increasing wages. We're looking at lower rates. So all of these factors together are small, but the real improvements in affordability, which is the biggest factor we have in our market. So it's not huge, but it is progress in the right direction. So expect kind of a normal, some appreciation. There's a Silicon Valley effect. So sometimes that's going to change piece by piece, but nothing dramatic as far as a collapse. We can't see anything like that. And also, as far as going crazy upwards, but an interest rate change can do that. So that's one thing just to kind of keep in mind. Oh, back to that Redfin comment about the lowest sales on record. Always read the fine print. This is a perfect case for that. They're only using data back to 2013 because that's the only data they have in-house. It doesn't pertain to things like 2008 and so on and so forth. So, busted again. We took that one out. So, back to that comment about missing out, what I said at the beginning. Why did I say that? There's more affordability on the horizon. There's less of a lockdown effect because those people are now like, hey, look, we might even see rates here in the 5s pretty soon. So that's a comfortable shift that's going on. Those two things combined together equal more competition. And what happens when there's more competition? You have multiple offers push prices up. So here's what you need to watch for right now. It's always all about supply and demand. So watch the inventory. the pending sales that go through it, and something called the absorption rate. We track this all the time, and you would have seen that on those particular slides. If you would like a copy of those slides, just hit us in the messages and we'll make sure that we send them over to you. But watch that inventory and that absorption rate. Absorption rate is the percentage of homes on the market that are selling, and that tells you where the market is. And usually if we see about 60%, which is almost exactly where we're at right now, that's considered a seller's market, but it's like right on the cusp of a seller's market. In some of the crazy Silicon Valley markets, we're at 80 or 90%. We've even seen 110, 120% in certain markets. We're not there. It's healthy right now, but there will still be competition based on what's there. You can always follow our market updates on YouTube too. We're very consistent on them, and we'll have some information on that towards the end here. So also remember the market fine print. There's always microclimates. So location is key. The closer you are to like the center of Mountain View and Sunnyvale, the more expensive things are going to be because that's a big hub of companies right there. Schools are also a big factor. The better the schools, the better the pricing. The worse the schools, the lower the pricing or more affordability. And then condos, townhomes, and single family homes, they all act a little different. They have different audiences. They have different amenities that they put in. There's a whole bunch of different factors that go into there. So watch those. Let me share one more story for you before we jump into our next speaker. And this is a story that actually may really surprise you. So I mentioned I was a second generation realtor. My father was a first generation realtor. And there was a story back when he was selling real estate where there was a home in Cupertino that sold for $100,000. $100,000. Think about that. Put that into perspective a little bit. When that house sold for $100,000, people were in like a sheer panic. Oh my God, we can't support this. This isn't affordable anymore. There's no way people can pay this kind of money for a house. So it was just a sheer panic. That same house in Cupertino in that same location is probably sitting worth over $4 million right now. We're going to see that continue to climb. We're in an inflation economy, regardless of what the pace is, but those are the things we're going to see. So it really does put things in perspective. So pay attention to that. Again, pretty boring year this year. As far as interest rates go, they should stay pretty stable, but it's a fool's errand to really try to predict interest rates. I heard somebody say it's like trying to predict the weather next year as well. I love that comment. However, interest rates are already 30% lower than they were 2 years ago. That's a pretty dramatic change in affordability. So that's the update on the market. I appreciate you guys listening to that part. I want to bring in our next speaker on here, which is Shannon Ellison. Welcome, Shannon. Let me, oh, look at that. There we go. So and I'm going to flip over into Shannon's spot here, which is how to select and work with a realtor. Shannon, thank you. Take it away.
Thank you, Keith. I always appreciate your market updates. They're so much more in depth than any other realtors I ever see or follow. So thank you so much for all that. So choosing an agent, it is so much more than just picking like the biggest name out there or just trusting a friendly face. It's really about, you want to find the truth, find the right fit for you, and expertise. And I really mean expertise. That should be a non-negotiable. So I kind of broke it down into 4 main steps. The first one is just cutting through the myths with every realtor. One being the access myth, when they say, I have all these properties for sale that nobody else has access to. Well, most sellers are going to want to list their home on the open market if they're trying to get the best price, which is most sellers. So it's not typical for an agent to have a whole list of private properties that are actually for sale. So be careful with that one. The other one is the friendship trap. Just because somebody's a friend or happens to have a license doesn't necessarily mean they're the best fit for you. A vast minority of agents actually do a vast majority of the business. I believe it's like 20% of the agents do like 80% of the business. So interview with intention there. Interview for skill and experience, not just that relationship alone. And ask yourself, would you write a check to your friend for $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 just because you like them? I don't know. I know my answer. The next one is that vaulted promise. Beware of hefty promises. You want to have results without evidence or experience to back it up is a red flag. So ask for evidence. And then it's just stale practices and those that rely solely on like outdated methods, or they don't invest in top data-driven marketing. Remember, this industry is always evolving. Just ask ChatGPT. Is your agent using ChatGPT? Because I know you are. So number 2 is you're meeting them with intention, in person, over Zoom, because first impressions really, really matter. And spend real time with them, 30, 45 minutes, maybe an hour, and dig beneath the surface. You want to treat it like a partnership interview. And you don't rush this part. You want to ask the who, the what, the when, the where, the why, and just probe for experience, style, support systems, their communication, and just their overall approach to working with clients. All of this is going to really expose their true expertise. Next, hire slow and fire fast. You want to research thoroughly and compare agents. Don't hesitate to move on if you just don't feel the vibe or the fit between them. Your confidence and your decisiveness here are actually your assets. Then just be clear on your intentions. Communicate your particular wants and needs and your standards. The more precise you are, the better that agent can deliver for you. Unfortunately, none of us are mind readers. I like to think that I am, but it's been proven that I'm actually not. And then comparing apples to apples. So what does that mean? You're first defining what service means for you and what you'd like to see. So full service, which is high touch communication, cutting edge tools, high levels of communication. I said that twice because it's so important. Or are you just looking for a discount? Because different agents offer different levels of services by necessity. Then you're interviewing those agents that are apples to apples with the same service philosophy. Check for their education commitment. The best agents offer educational resources like workshops or comprehensive guides. And then detailed support. So just seeking agents with tight, focused support teams. It's a career that needs so many different talents, but just be sure that they have consistent meetings, vendor relationships, and disciplined systems. It really does make for a truly superior client experience for you. And one of the biggest decision maybe that you'll ever make, but definitely one of the biggest ones. And lastly, taking real action. You are reviewing references, reviewing their results, ask for testimonials, their performance history, and maybe some successful negotiation examples or stories that they've done. And then you're understanding all of the contracts and fees associated. Can they clearly and confidently explain the contracts to you? The agent should understand all those buyer agreements, the commissions that are outlined, and any recent changes in industry standards. Just expect honesty, adaptability, and agents who aren't afraid to tell you the tough truth. In real estate, you don't want a yes person. And they just want to adapt their approach and invest in ongoing learning as well, I think is really important. Because it's really not about hearing what you want to hear. It's about partnering with someone who really educates you and empowers you and delivers modern results. So a couple of different options. I know the buyer broker agreements are floating around out there, and sometimes there's some misconceptions about them. So I'll break it down in simple terms for you. There are really two main buyer broker agreements. And the first one is just that single property broker agreement. It's great if you've never worked with a real estate agent before. You just want to test the waters. You don't want any long-term commitments. There's that form for that. And then there's the full BRBC, which is the buyer broker representation agreement. It's the longer term commitment. It can be for up to 90 days maximum. And then if you don't find a home in 90 days and you want to renew with them, it's very easy to do so. This is a California law that it cannot exceed 90 days as well. And either broker agreement is fine. And oftentimes we see the first one kind of turn into the second one after some of that trust is built after the showings and the agent has really proven themselves to you. And then I want to touch on a quick note about using the seller's agent to also represent you on the home. Like if you're going to open houses and you're meeting the listing agent for a house that you really like. I'll share a short story. We weren't representing the buyer, but we heard of a buyer that was promised a deal or a rebate, if you will, to use the listing agent to write the offer and also represent him. It was in a changing market, and that buyer ended up paying $120,000 over the asking price, and they were the only offer. Let that sink in. Oh, that sucks for that buyer. So remember, the number one cause of lawsuits in real estate, lack of or improper disclosure. And using the seller's agent to represent both sides is the number one situation for lawsuits in real estate. It's called dual agency, and that's where the same agent represents both sides. So you as the buyer, you have a right to use separate representation. It is a smart decision to help protect you in one of the biggest investment decisions that you might ever do.
Oh, that was awesome, Shannon. Gold right there in those words. So very cool. Great stuff all the way from top to bottom. And it's so important. And I just want to stress this because you cleared it out there. You put so much of a checklist for people to understand how to work with the realtor. And the choice is incredible. It's massive. You brought it up. There's $120,000 difference on somebody who is probably getting like a $10,000 discount, and it cost them that much more money. Not everybody in any profession, nobody's created equal. There's always a percentage that are work harder, more ethical, so on and so forth. So just make sure that you're finding the right fit for you. You nailed it. It's the right fit. Know what you're looking for and have the person that you feel most comfortable with and most trustworthy with. Awesome, Shannon. Thank you. We'll see you again in a couple minutes.
All right.
All right. Let's go jump into the next one. And I want to go through the process here, like the journey. What does it look like? This is especially important if you're a first-time home buyer or it's been a while since you've been through the process, because that happens too. We tend to forget things as far as what do I do next? And so when I come through here, I really want to stress this piece. This can take like an hour and a half to sit down and explain from start to finish, but I'm going to try to do it fairly quickly for you. And if there's any clarifications you need, again, we'll be available for questions afterwards, or you can pop something down there in the chat as well. So let me minimize myself so you can see what we're talking about here on our flow chart. So again, if you want a copy of this, just reach out. We're happy to send it over to you. So, and go through there. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about is interviewing multiple realtors. So that's the first piece that you see up there. Shannon already touched on this a little bit. So she spoke about it. She talked about the importance of it and why you do it. So I'm not going to go too much into that. So that's number one. Number two is loan pre-approval. The loan pre-approval, this is to know how much you can afford. And it's really important to do this right out of the gate, because the biggest mistake that I've seen people make out there over my almost 30 years of doing this is that they go start looking at homes that are beyond their budget, and they fall in love with those homes. And then when they find out what their budget is, they don't find a home that they like. So, and sometimes it's vice versa. Sometimes they realize, oh, wow, I can get more than I thought I could in that process. So you know what your ability is at that point by doing that, and what your purchasing power is. So get that pre-approval. It's a huge first important step. And there's different levels to pre-approval. A lender will tell you that. Full underwritten, pre-approval, pre-qualification are different things. Again, we could explain that more in depth on another time. The next thing that's up there, wants and needs checklist and touring some homes. Man, this piece, I think, has saved so many partners, couples, marriages out there by doing the wants and needs checklist. And I recommend that if you're more than one person buying a home, you do it separately. You set on a side, you create one, you look at what your wants and needs are, then you come together and look at them together to know what's there. Know what your non-negotiables are. In the Bay Area, unless you're ready to spend $8 million on a house, you're going to have some stuff you're not going to be able to get. And so go through there, know what your non-negotiables are, know what you have to have, know what the likes are, what you'd like to have, and know what the standoffs are that you want to completely avoid. So have that together, and then just go start looking at homes, see what's out there and see what matches for you. Then you're going to make an offer. So you find the home that you like, you put in an offer. Piece of advice that I can give: sometimes you have to see 50 homes to find the house you like. Sometimes it's the first one. And it doesn't happen very often, but keep in mind, if it's the first home and you love it, don't tell yourself, oh, I've only seen one house. You love the house, right? So make that move and go for it. I've seen people skip past the first house and go, oh, geez, now I'm looking at 8 or 9 houses and I'm comparing them all to this house. So make your offer. know how to make a strong offer. That's going to come in at the end, so you'll get more information on there. I'm not going to talk about that right now for the sake of time. So once your offer is in, you're going to see this big black box over here. Your offer gets accepted. This is the best part of the whole piece is congratulations. Your offer just got accepted. There's a couple things that are going to happen when that happens. Number one, you're going to be so excited that your offer got accepted. You're going to celebrate. And then later that day, you're going to go, what did I just do? And you're going to have cold feet. It's human nature. It happens all the time. So go back to your wants and needs checklist. Know why you put the offer in. Have that together. Going into the next step, once your offer is accepted, there's an initial deposit that goes in. That initial deposit is 3% of the purchase price. So that's the standard that goes in. It can be different. You can put more. Sometimes you can negotiate less, but it's 3%. And the reason it's 3% is because there's a clause in the contract that says if you cancel the contract after removing contingencies, you're subject up to 3%. That's the reason for that number. You're going to see something that is called due diligence right there. And I want to clarify one thing about due diligence. A lot of times it happens before you put an offer in, because in Silicon Valley, oftentimes there's multiple offers. And when there's multiple offers, there's no contingencies. And so you have to do this due diligence ahead of time. Now, if you have contingencies, that's great. And I'm going to talk about what that's like if you have contingencies. We're going to look at it in that manner. So the aspects that you're going to look at, if you look in this due diligence box, is you're going to look at title. Are there any liens on title? Are there any encumbrances? You're going to do inspections, make sure the property is what it is, and you understand everything about it. You're going to look at the disclosures that the seller made about everything that they know about the property, they've experienced, they've fixed, they've had issues with. You want to verify your insurance. Insurance is pretty difficult in California, so you want to make sure you know about that right away. And if you're in a property that has a homeowners association, and that's not always just condos and townhomes, sometimes it's single family homes as well. If you're in an association like that, you're going to want to understand their rules and regulations and how the HOA works. What is the financial strength of the HOA? Are they in trouble? Are they going to raise the dues? What's going on there? So that piece is really important as well. So the other parts that you're going to deal with, that's kind of your due diligence physical contingency. The other parts you're going to deal with are going to be the finance aspects of the property. And there's two things that you're going to see. You look right up here to the left of the gray circle, you're going to see appraisal. And you're going to see loan approval. So the appraisal is where the bank has their own independent person come out and evaluate the property to make sure that the price that you paid for it is right, basically, that the bank agrees with it. If the bank doesn't agree with it and you come up short, if you have contingencies, you can go back and renegotiate, try to get a lower price. Seller doesn't have to agree to it, but it does put you in a position to do that. Or if you have a contingency, you can walk away from the deal if you can't get an agreement on there. If you don't have contingencies, you're going to have to pay the difference in that appraisal from what it was appraised to what your purchase price was on top of your down payment. The loan approval process is just basically the bank checking all the boxes to make sure you're still good. You're still employed, your credit is still the same, you didn't go out and buy a brand new car, all of these pieces to say, hey, you're now qualified, you've been pre-approved, we're pre-approving you for this particular property. So anything happens during those things, and we spoke about this is a gray box over to my side over here. Anything happens during that point of due diligence and you have contingencies, you can renegotiate on the property. You can, walk away if it's something very detrimental that you find out, or you can remove your contingencies and say, hey, we're happy with everything. This is all good. Let's remove our contingencies and move forward to the next step. Now, the moment that you remove your contingencies, you are now subject to losing your deposit if something happens and you don't complete the transaction at that point. That deposit, as we talked about earlier, is 3% of the purchase price. So when that all comes down, that's all the hard part of the process, right? Outside of giving them your money, that's the hard part right there. So that next piece that we go into is right in the bottom here. I'm going to roll through these. You're going to schedule your movers and utilities. You want to do that ahead of time. Don't wait to the last minute. You're going to do what's called a final walkthrough, where you walk through the property about 2 to 3 days before you close. And I'm going to put myself up here so you see this. The intention of that walkthrough is to make sure everything is in the same condition as it was when you bought it. It is not a contingency. So I just wanted to clear that one coming through there. So you go through there. If something is wrong, you can stall the close of escrow or not close until it's taken care of or there's an agreement, but you can't cancel the contract. Then you're going to go to signing closing documents. You do that with the title company and a notary. And it's basically all the deeds and a lot of stuff you've already signed. It's going to be loan documents. It's going to be all that, everything that completes the transfer from you as the buyer, accepting it from the seller when you hit that closing date. So you sign the documents. About 24 to 48 hours before you close, you're going to deposit all of your closing funds, which is going to be your down payment less the 3%. That first 3% EMD is part of your down payment. So it's going to be the down payment less 3%. And then it's going to be your closing costs on top of that. So whatever your escrow fees are, so on and so forth, if you've negotiated commission, through there, those are going to be paid. All of those extra pieces, any inspections that you've done, those are going to be on top of your down payment as well. Then the lender funds the loan. That's the last piece that comes in after your deposit is in, or all your down payment money is in. The lender funds the loan. They do their side, unless you're paying all cash. And then the title company collects everything. They record it with the county, and there's an official transfer at that point in time. You as the buyer, congratulations, you now own your home. The title company is going to notify your real estate agent. Real estate agent is going to notify you, and you get the keys to the home and you get to move in. Closing day. That's the fun part. So fun stuff coming through there. Again, I could go through all the ins and outs of that for about an hour and a half, but you get the quick version. So on that note, we've got Shannon again. So Shannon, welcome back. We're going to see Adam here eventually, I promise. So he's got some really good stuff to share. But I'm going to bring Shannon back up because she's going to talk about how you evaluate property.
Awesome. Thank you, Keith. All right, we're going to hop right in. So tips for evaluating properties. This is probably one of my favorite parts other than getting like the news you got your offer accepted. But we're going to talk about things to look for when you're out touring homes and evaluating properties online. And I like to start with the biggest one being schools. One of the biggest drivers for property value in our area is school district. The better the schools, the more desirable the location, and therefore the homes. There could be one street dividing a neighborhood that has two different high schools with different ratings, and the homes could be $200,000 to $300,000 difference in values, maybe even more. So even if you don't have school-age children, know about this factor for resale or for future rental purposes if you decide you want to make it a rental. Next is the street location. Is the home on a through street? Is it a cul-de-sac? Is it right at a stop sign intersection? There's going to be more noise and stop and go traffic at those locations. But you might save some money on the purchase price, of course, depending on how hot the market is. Which leads perfectly into noise and nuisances. Don't just tour a home with your eyes, but also close your eyes and listen. Are you hearing planes, trains? Are there barking dogs, loud neighbors? Really get a sense for all of your senses when you're touring. And we can always refer to the seller's disclosures where they might disclose these things, but after an owner's lived there for 10 plus years, they may not even notice that the BART goes by every day anymore. But you're going to notice it, at least for the first few months until you get used to it as well. Next is views. Views can obviously affect a property's desirability. Views of hills or mountains can mean a buyer might pay more. Remember to look at things also like power lines, power towers, and be aware of the overall lack of views as well. In a townhome community, you might be staring straight into your neighbor's living room. So open the blinds during showings and make sure you really get the view from the property from all angles. Next is walkability. Some people are going to see value in being walking distance to major amenities like in city centers, whereas some people are going to be more keen on being farther away from the downtown life. If you're okay with farther commute times to and from work, you might save money by purchasing a home on the outskirts or further from downtown locations. Just know your preference and then set your search radiuses accordingly. Which leads me right into commute. And I'm sure that you noticed that the majority of tech companies are in the heart of Silicon Valley, like your Sunnyvale, Mountain View, Santa Clara. And the closer you get to those areas, the more expensive the homes get. So if you're in tech, decide how far you want your commute to work be and draw that search radius accordingly. I always recommend to my clients to drive that commute at the times of day that they're going to be going to and from work to really get a feel for the drive time that they're going to be living with, at least for several years or for however long that you're in that career. Future developments. This is a big one. City websites are a great resource to find what permits have been filed or projects that are in the planning phases that may not be physically seen yet around the property. This can help you decide if it might hurt or help your future property value long term. It's usually going to help your home value. It's things like parks and schools or churches or big community centers, but maybe plans for governmental or industrial sites, that's a different story. So really lean on those city websites as a big resource. Next is types of lots. Sizes and usability of a lot is important. A 15,000 square foot lot might not be the same desirability as a 7,500 square foot lot, even though it's bigger. If it's on a hillside with less than half of it being usable space, maybe that 7,500 square foot lot is actually more desirable. Shape is also important as well when you're considering building on or the possibility of an ADU. If it's pie-shaped and how the home is positioned on the lot is a big factor to pay attention to as well. Next is hazard zoning. This is a document you can find out in the NHD. It's called Natural Hazards Disclosure. And this can sometimes affect your property insurance if the house lands in one of those high-risk zones, like a special flood zone or a high-risk fire zone. So always check that out during your disclosures call with your realtor. Next is property facing. This is a big value for some cultures in our area that are practicing Vastu or Feng Shui. Property direction does affect value, but not so much during our very competitive markets here that we see in the Bay Area. It's possible now could pose some opportunity for buyers looking to be a little bit more selective on property facing, especially in the condo and townhome sector, but maybe not for long as we head into spring this year as things are starting to pick up a bit. Next is the nicest home on the block. It's not always the best plan to be the best house on the block. In fact, actually being the worst house on the block could be better for your value. And the bigger, more upgraded homes all around it actually bring up that land value if you're on that street or in that neighborhood. Because the value in our area, remember, is not necessarily the structure of the house itself, but the land that that structure sits on. Excuse me. This is one of the big driving forces as that land value of appreciation in our area. The lack of new land to build on, combined with low supply and our consistent demand, our prices are staying stable usually or moving upward. We are getting there. Okay, next is multi-units nearby. This is a big one. Consider driving up and down the parallel streets to the home as well and see if there's any multifamily or like small apartments nearby, because they usually have a high concentration of renters in the area, and that can affect home value over time as well. You want the less turnover for rental in the area, the better. Generally long-term, if you don't have those close by. Cost of upgrades is next. I always say this is a big one, but they're all so important in their own way. You want to consider cost of upgrades that are needed because most homes in this area are older and they're just, some of them are not updated. And so when you're considering those costs, it's important to be realistic. A good agent is going to be able to ballpark cost of floors, cost of kitchen and bath remodels and new appliances. It's super easy for new buyers, especially new buyers, to overestimate the cost of very minor fixes and repairs. And then they sometimes completely pass up really good homes because they just aren't being realistic with the associated costs of things. And we can help you discern what's important to tackle in the short term versus things that can maybe wait 6 to 12 months. Next, talking to the neighbors. This is the best way to find out the truth about a neighborhood. I've knocked on doors on either side of a home that my buyers were thinking about making an offer on and found out some very interesting things about the neighborhood that we couldn't have known any other way than just going and talking to the neighbors. So you want to find out the dirt on an area or the great things about an area, knock those doors or have your realtor do it. Next is due diligence. Be sure, Keith talked about this in the process chart, be sure to review all those disclosures, reports, and docs before making an offer, especially a non-contingent offer. If there's no inspections provided, get inspections, and we've got all the trusted inspectors to work with, that we've worked with for years, that we can refer you. And a few parting thoughts before I hand it over. Remember, when you are looking at your checklist, your wants and needs for a property, and it's checking a lot of your boxes, chances are that it's checking a lot of other people's boxes as well. So if you love the home, you're comfortable with the mortgage payment, make an offer. Why? Because the closing price of that home is now going to be the new benchmark for that size home in the neighborhood. So when you can, lock the rate and get in the market and watch your values rise for years to come.
Nice, Shannon. That was awesome. So many things to look at, right? It's not just like, oh, hey, I like the windows on the front of this house. So that's a nice piece, great information to share on there. Two things. Number one, we had a question. I'm going to get to that, but I also promised you guys Adam. So he's here. See, he does exist. He's right there waiting in the wings. He's going to have the next topic coming up here. So, and this is one of the big ones that we're looking for that we teased at the beginning. What are the mistakes that people make and how do you avoid them? And then Shannon's going to finish up with how do you actually negotiate an offer and get your offer accepted? So, and then we have a couple little Q&A and some information for you at the end that would be very helpful. So we're right on track. We're right on time here. So we did have a question on here, and then we're going to turn it over to Adam. The question was from Robin. Robin, thanks. Your question was, how soon can you remove the insurance contingency? How soon can you get insurance on your home, removing the insurance contingency? So almost immediately if your insurance company approves a property. And that's really what it comes down to. The insurance company is going to look at a lot of things, your location, if you're in any fire zones, if you're in a landslide zone, if you're in a flood zone, how old is the roof, what's the age of the house. There's a lot of different factors they have. So I would even have a conversation with an insurance company ahead of time to see if there's criteria. We also know a great company out there. It's called Netclo that we can share with you if you want to reach out, that actually knows how to evaluate homes ahead of time and what the insurance companies are looking for. So you know if it's something that would be worthwhile to you. That is a great question. Hopefully that answered your question. If you need more clarification, let me know. Adam, Shannon and I are going to bounce from here, and you are up.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah. Great information so far. And yeah, I'm going to be covering avoiding common first-time homebuyer mistakes. And the truth here, guys, is that you really don't have to be a first-time homebuyer to make these mistakes. We've seen plenty of repeat buyers make these mistakes. So these are some of the things you want to avoid, some of the pitfalls we see a lot of people, mostly first-time homebuyers, falling into. And so we definitely don't want you to be those people. First up, not interviewing multiple agents. We've touched on this a little bit. But most first-time home buyers, they really don't realize they're essentially choosing a business partner for one of those biggest financial decisions of their lives. So interviewing multiple agents is going to help you understand different experience levels, different strategies, communication styles, and someone who's truly going to advocate for you at the end of the day. Excuse me. So it's really important to think about the right agent doesn't just open doors for you. They protect your investment and they guide you along the way. Next up, choosing the wrong type of agent. We see educational agents, and then we see some that are merely transactional. So not all agents operate the same way. We've got some, as I mentioned, who are order takers. They're just going to send you listings. They're going to write contracts. Others are actually educators, right? They're going to explain risks, different strategies, contracts, long-term impact, those types of things. A limited service agent may seem like a good option at first, but a full service educational agent often is going to save you tens of thousands of dollars, if not more, in mistakes, and they're going to have a much better negotiation power too. Another thing we see sometimes first-time homeowners fall into is making large purchases, especially right before or in the escrow process. So before closing, your credit profile, it needs to stay stable. So buying a car, opening new credit cards, financing new furniture, for example, can really change that DTI, your debt to income ratio, and even cause you to lose your loan or for your loan to be denied at the last minute. So always talk to your lender before any major purchases. And the best rule of thumb is just really no big purchases before or during the home buying search. Next up, we have not understanding your budget. Many buyers only look at the mortgage payment and forget about the property taxes, the insurance, HOA fees, there's utility fees, maintenance, there's a lot of fees. So a home can feel affordable at first, but until the full monthly picture hits, a real budget should be based on total ownership, not just the loan. So we want to get the full picture. when you're looking at your home purchase. Next up is not getting pre-approved. So without that pre-approval letter, you're really just shopping blind. You may be shopping above what you can actually afford. You may be shopping below what you can afford. So you don't know your true buying power, and you can miss out on a great home. That pre-approval really prevents that emotional heartbreak that some first-time home buyers find out from falling in love with homes that you were never really qualified for, or maybe wasting time looking at homes at a lower price point when maybe you can afford something more. So understanding that buying power and having that pre-approval letter is going to save you a lot of time and heartbreak. Next up, we have not understanding closing costs. So closing costs, these are real money items that show up at the end of the transaction. There's lender fees, there's escrow fees, title fees, insurance fees, and many buyers are kind of shocked because they don't really plan for these things. So your agent can get together a net sheet to give you an example net sheet to give you an idea of what these costs are going to look like. And then once you're in escrow, the escrow officer will send you that sheet. The numbers are going to be fairly similar. So again, you can have that full picture and understanding. Next up, we have not reviewing disclosures. This is a big one here. Disclosures and inspections, these things exist to protect you, the buyer. So skipping them or rushing through them can mean you're basically inheriting things like structural problems on your house, lawsuits. We've seen special HOA assessments or uninsurable properties that can come up too. So this is where buyers either protect themselves or they can actually get burned pretty bad. And you definitely don't want to be the latter. I actually had a client whose house I sold in San Jose years ago. About a year after the sale, I found out that she bought an out-of-area condo. So I was a little confused because I'd worked with her. We had great rapport. And I asked her why she didn't, call me to help her with the purchase of this home. And she thought it was too far. It was out of my area and I wouldn't have helped her, which I would have because I care about the person, not just the transaction. But she thought I didn't serve that area. So long story short, I asked a few questions. She said she just used a random agent who was at the open house. And that agent didn't actually sit down and review the disclosures with her. And not long after she became the owner, she was slapped with an assessment of over $10,000 because the HOA was not well funded. They needed to do a lot of work to that community. And she really felt blindsided. She was like, she was really upset about it. And we kind of had that talk of like, hey, this is why it's important. You figure out who you're working with and you ask these questions, get these things figured out, because the right agent would have gone through that. Maybe she would have made that purchase, but at least she would have known. She wouldn't have felt blindsided. And so just one example, we see this all the time in real estate. So it's always better to sit down, review disclosures, and get the full scope. All right, back on track. Next up, we have not understanding the cost of upgrades. On the flip side there is overestimating those costs, right? So some buyers underestimate renovation costs and they get financially overwhelmed, right? Because they see things that need to be done. And others overestimate the costs and they walk away from houses that actually check a lot of their boxes. Maybe they think, it's going to cost me 20, 30K to do this work when it's only 5 to 10K or something like that. We see that too. So having realistic estimates is going to help you make confident, smart decisions. And your realtor should be able to help you ballpark that and also connect you with trusted, vetted vendors. Next is not understanding risk of non-contingent offers. Keith hit on this earlier. When the market is appreciating, when we see multiple offers, it's going to come down to a non-contingent offer that wins the house in almost every time. So our Bay Area market generally moves pretty fast. And oftentimes it takes a non-contingent offer to win the home, especially if there's going to be multiple offers, as I mentioned. So removing contingencies can actually help you win in a competitive market, but it does shift that risk onto you, the buyer. So if your financing fails, if it's inspections reveal like a major problem or something that needs further investigation, or the home doesn't appraise, you, the buyer, you could lose your deposit, right? So this is something that's it's really a strategic move. It's not a casual move, excuse me. And every strategy is going to vary with each scenario. So that's definitely something that has to be talked about. And again, every house is going to be different. Every market is going to be different, but it needs to be fully understood, and you need to sit down with your agent to really understand the pros and cons and what that means. We had an insurance question earlier, so we see this too now, and this is a newer thing we've seen, but shopping for insurance too late. Some buyers are going to wait until the last few days to get insurance, and then they actually figure out that the home is hard to insure due to the different fire zones. You've got past claims or potential roof issues. So this can delay or even kill a deal. So buyers can lose their deposit by waiting till the last minute. Buyers falling out of contract, interestingly enough, is something we're seeing at an all-time high. So insurance is something that you really want to get started with early on in the process, and not towards the end of the transaction. So your realtor should be able to recommend a good insurance company and get you a quote to help understand if the home is insurable and what those costs look like. All right, couple more. We see this too a lot. And again, this isn't something we see with first-time home buyers. Sometimes this is repeat buyers, but trying to nickel and dime, right? We all want a deal, but fighting over small amounts can really cost you the entire house, especially if that house really checks all your boxes, right? So in competitive markets, sellers are going to choose those clean, strong, confident offers, right? They're not going to choose the offer that is like the low ball one with lots of counter demands. So this is where strategy really matters. Again, and this is going to be somewhat market dependent, but nickel and diming over the house you really want can cost you the house. So think about that. And then lastly, looking for a deal or waiting it out. And again, we all want a deal, right? But many buyers sit on the sidelines and they hope for that perfect deal, right? Or they try to time the bottom of the market. But really the truth is those opportunities go to the prepared buyers who act strategically, not emotionally or fearfully. And the truth is about the market, we never really know when the bottom of the market hits. We don't know until it's behind us. So the best advice I can give you, and again, Shannon touched on this, is if you like the layout, if you like the area, if you're comfortable with the mortgage, the total mortgage, and you plan to be there 5-7+ years, it really just makes sense to put your best foot forward and submit a strong offer and start that new chapter of your life.
Adam, that is a lot of stuff to avoid. No wonder you say people not just first-time home buyers make those mistakes. So that's a lot of stuff on there, man. That was solid. Great nuggets in there for sure. Great information. Again, all of this we can share later if you have questions on it. We've got, when we're finishing up here, we've got one more great topic for you that Shannon's going to talk on, and that's, getting the deal and negotiating the best deal for yourself and going through that process. When that's over, we're going to have a couple quick little things, about our next workshop. We talked earlier that if you really like this one, you find all the content advantageous and you want to see it again, or you want to share it with somebody, we'll tell you when the next date is. And also, we mentioned earlier that 79% of home buyers are sellers. We have a sellers workshop that we do as well. So we're going to talk about when that is and when you can attend that also. And we'll give you a way to follow us too. So you can follow all of our market updates, all of our videos, and ended up with a Q&A and an offer at the end that I think you just might like. So, all right, everybody, thank you so much. Adam, I'm getting rid of you because it's Shannon's time again, okay? Nice job. Thanks for being here. All right. So, Shannon, it's negotiation time. So you've got the floor. I'm stepping off.
Cool. Thank you, Keith. All right. This is one of the shorter ones for you guys, but one of the most important, negotiating and preparing an offer the right way. Because yes, there is a wrong way to do it. There's actually many wrong ways to do it. So we'll talk about my strategy, our strategy on the team, and how we have success with our clients. So is your agent doing these things to give you the best chance of an offer acceptance? And it really starts with the relationship. Well, it could start with the relationship between them and the seller's agent as early as in person visiting the open house with you. The listing agent and selling or buyer's agent are getting to know each other in person. And this can start the negotiations as early as this with that relationship. Then we're researching, checking the MLS, reading the agent's private notes, requesting the disclosures, reading all the instructions for the offer and making sure we're following them, and then evaluating the competition. We're studying the comps and evaluating the inspections. I also like to look how a particular agent prices homes and look at their sales history because there's usually patterns. Do they sell super low or list them super low and then they sell super high? Are they more right on with the list price and the sale price? Or are they an agent who lists really high, they have price reductions, and then they end up selling for a lot lower? there are patterns. They should get as much info from the listing agent as possible about the activity in the open houses, number of disclosure requests. Have they had any preemptive offers that have come in already, or offers that the seller has rejected? And then, does the seller have any specific needs? Do they need a rent back? Do they need a specific closing date? The main thing I want to know really is there going to be competition? Because at the end of the day, I don't want my client to overpay. So asking all these questions helps us get a really good picture of how to craft the perfect offer for the seller to accept. Then, know as a buyer. This is a big one. What's your walkaway number? That the number that if it sells for $1 more than that number, you're okay washing your hands clean and walking away and saying, that's it, on to the next house. Competition doesn't matter if you're okay with the home and the monthly payment at that offer amount. Then you're dotting all the I's, crossing all the T's, cleaning up the offer, making it perfect. Then presentation and strategy. I'm submitting on time. I'm staying in communication with the agent. Hey, how many offers did you get? Where did we land amongst the group? What do we have to do? Those sort of questions within a half an hour to an hour after the offer deadline in most cases. And then I'm also having the buyer's lender call the listing agent to plant even more trust in them so they can relate to the seller, hey, this is a strong buyer. They're well qualified. I've looked at their file. We're going to have no problems closing and funding this. Then we're going to understand counters. Are you going to plan for a counter? Are you offering with room to move up? Because there's never a certainty that you're going to get a counter. An agent might even say that they're planning to send counters and then do something completely different. Because at the end of the day, it's the seller's choice, not the agent's choice of whether they're going to do counter offers or not. So you got one shot. Your one shot might be it. So offer that walkaway number. And usually our advice when clients ask us if they should leave a little room for negotiations, the answer in competitive situations is typically no. Because we don't want to see you miss out on a home that you love when you would have paid that sale price. It's not a fun position to be in. That is it, Keith. Wrapping us up.
I was going to leave you on there for a second. Adam, I'm going to throw you back on here. Get ready. All right. I wanted to get the smiley faces. Want to make sure he didn't know he was going to come back on camera. So Shannon and Adam, that was great information. Fantastic all the way through here. I've got a couple things that I want to share. The content here was awesome. We've got an offer here at the end, again, that I think you're going to like. One of the things, Shannon, you brought up a couple things. That walkaway number is huge. That's so powerful. You're not negotiating against anybody except yourself. So I love that walkaway number. That's fantastic. The other thing you talked about counter offers. Been almost 30 years doing this. It used to be guaranteed that you were going to get a counter offer. Now it's almost guaranteed that you're not going to get a counter offer with the way things that have changed. So that's really powerful as well. And I think the last thing that I want to say, you talked about researching the agent. I thought that was really powerful. I know we had a client on the team that got an offer accepted over the weekend, this past weekend. And the agent, when we started researching the agent and weren't getting a lot of information, looked on the MLS, looked at their history, looked like they tend to list high and sell low. And so you know kind of where the negotiation strategy was. So the buyers ended up putting an offer lower than they probably would have in the first place. And the agent just accepted it. So it was pretty awesome. It's great information. Do that research, know that stuff ahead of time. So great words. Adam, Shannon, really, really good stuff. I'm going to put you guys away, talk about the next events. Thank you, everybody. If you have more comments, pop them up on there. Everybody's been great. So Justin, thanks for the nice comments there as well. I've got a couple things for you. Hang on, everybody. So let me jump into our next little piece over here, which is our next events. So I'm going to get my face out of the way here so you can see them. And those are what we have coming on right now. So the very next event that we're doing for a buyer workshop, if you thought this was great and you want to share it, is Thursday, April 2nd. Also a Thursday like this, 6:30, it's online. This particular topic that we're going to go, because every buyer workshop we do, we have a different topic. So this different topic is, how can you take advantage of a shifting market? So we'll have that information for you. And again, we said this how many times now? 79% of home buyers are also sellers. So we have a great in-person workshop that we do in our office. We actually serve food and coffee, and you get to meet our smiling faces in person. And in our workshop that's coming up here on May 9th, it's how do I maximize my net profit in the most convenient way possible, because that's important. You want to keep up to date on all of our workshops. They're right there. BayAreaWorkshops.com is where you go to. The next thing that I'll show you on here is our YouTube channel. Get your phones out really quick. If you're watching this on your screen, if you're watching on your phone, get somebody else's phone or screenshot this. So here is your QR code to jump into our YouTube channel. Just a little quick humble brag from our team here. This is the most watched Bay Area real estate channel from a realtor. We have over 38,000 subscribers, over 4.5 million views. Why is that the case? Because we try to put real, true content, real, true data, real, true updates and information that buyers, sellers, and investors can use. So go ahead and snap that real quick. The last thing that we have here is how you get in contact with us. So that's it. If you go through there, it'll take you to all of our channels. You want to follow up with us, you want to connect with us, all of our team of professionals are right on there. So scan that guy and you will have all the information you need. So with that, I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you very much for being here and tell you what our offer was, because we did say that. Because on a day with all the information that we have, like we did today, one of the things I do know over time is a lot of this information is not going to be retained. As a matter of fact, it's been shown that when you listen to somebody speak, it's like 10 or 15% of what is talked about is retained. It's a lot of stuff. So our team is going to make an offer to you today. We're committed to helping you, and we'll continue this workshop for you in depth, answer all your questions one-on-one at a coffee shop, at our office. No obligation at all. It doesn't matter who you work with. We're here to share information with you. You can implement this plan again with whomever you want. However, we want to give you this bonus. So just reach out to us. We'll provide that to you. And if you register this and put your email in, we're going to send a survey to you because we want to know how you thought we did, what we provided, what you would want to see, anything more through the process. Because again, we are committed to giving you the best possible that you can have out there in information when it comes to Bay Area real estate. So thank you. Thank you so very much, everybody. We look forward to seeing you at the next one. And we look forward to answering your questions when we hear from you after this. Take care. Bye-bye.